Hi, welcome to POP TV, another edition powered by POP TikR. So today, Canada, we have another rocking Canadian brand. CHEEKBONE Beauty is in the house. How are things going? I know with COVID-19, it's been really tough for retail. So how is CHEEKBONE Beauty coping?
You know, we are really, really fortunate because we were set up to sell online, and we know that the world paused and then transitioned themselves literally to do everything online. So, and that included all their shopping. So, gratefully, we've been okay and been able to keep all of our employees, not having to let anyone go or any of those sorts of things. And those are the conversations I know many businesses had to have right away early on, especially in a startup. As a startup, you're like, okay, how much money do we have? How long could we last if we had no sales? What would happen? And having those meetings with our board. But we're really fortunate that our community and Canada has supported everything that we're doing.
And that's what it's about. The Support Local Canada is about bringing Canadians from coast to coast to coast to really recognize how important it is to invest in Canadian brands. And the other interesting fact I found out, Jen, is how much our local charities and community initiatives depend on local business, because that's a prime source of funding and support that they get. So thank you for all that you do, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I first want to talk about your beauty brand. I mean, it's world class. I absolutely love it. I love your tagline. You have do good, feel good, and look good. And that's really what it's about, right?
Yes, we definitely, I think, feel better about ourselves. And when we feel better about ourselves, we just naturally look better to others. We have a glow about us, and it all starts with that first portion, which is doing good. So if we all just paused and thought about different ways that we could support anybody, right? It all starts from that idea of being kind to strangers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a beautiful. I love your ethos. It just hits in the core of kindness and being compassionate and having empathy. And I think, COVID-19 has, as difficult as it has been, and we talk about the reset, it really has. I think for many of us humans have created that pause and reset just to focus on that core.
Yeah, it's made all of us, I think, which is the key. I always say that when we're working with our marketing team, we're just trying to really, like, how do we get people just to think and maybe feel something about something that's happening. And COVID, as tragic as it is and as global, it's hit everybody. There's nobody that it's not affecting in terms of countries or people, and it's making all of us think about things a little bit differently, which I think we really needed.
Yeah, no, true. And I wanted to focus a little bit more on your products now too. So I see that you have the beautiful lipsticks, the liquid lipsticks, as well as the lip gloss. And I love your lip gloss because it's not sticky. And for
Oh,
any of
good.
the women that know, one of the things about lip gloss when they originally came out were, I mean, you got that beautiful gloss, but they're so, like, on a windy day, and your hair will kind of, and it literally will stick to your lips, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I noticed that, and I saw a lot of items sold out. I mean, you have these beautiful palettes, the highlight and contour palettes. So, what is trending right now in beauty? What are your customers really, buying up these days?
So we are in a really strange place right now because we're making this big transition. So if you followed our brand since the beginning, you would see that we started out with a line of the liquid lipsticks, the palettes, and the brow product. But we really started diving deep into this mission of further sustainability, because I always say our brand always has been sustainable. The first focus of our sustainability, though, was on Indigenous youth and how do we sustain our communities. Well, that had to start with empowering our youth. So that was one of the layers of the foundation of our brand. And then a second tier to that was, okay, so we have this market. People are really wanting to support our project about sustaining our youth. Now, how do we work into sustaining the planet, and making this more about creating less of an environmental impact. And anybody who, you know, it's a big trend right now to be a sustainable business. But there's a real great amount of work involved. So if you're truly in this for the long haul, you understand that sustainability is a journey. There's no end destination, that your brand would just have that mission of always searching for a better way to do something. So for us, that meant packaging. You know, a lot of us, there's so many things we don't understand, and I am no expert on anything. I really am blatant about that, but we're learning as we go. So we've learned that certain kinds of plastics or things that have those symbols that can be recycled aren't necessarily recycled by your waste management systems in the region where you live. So for instance, we learned that black plastic is something that doesn't get recycled in many regions or areas across North America, for that matter. So we're like, what can we do now to eliminate the black plastic that our brand is using? And that step has been into creating this lipstick that has biodegradable paper packaging. And then to be clear on that is not necessarily the only option to go sustainable as paper. You have to really think about, it's like every product has a life cycle. So we really try to focus now on that idea of life cycle thinking. So how the paper is pulped, you know, paper pulp industry, so it's understanding from the beginning right to the end of life, what happens to it, and how is it impacting our ecosystem surrounding us. So that is just like scratching the surface of that conversation. So we grew from one place into another, and we're still growing and learning. So we're really trying hard to become just a fully sustainable business and brand. But it's a journey, and our community has been really supportive with us along that route. So our products, we're running out of everything because, one, we're transitioning our black, the palettes we had for our contour highlights into this gorgeous new biodegradable paper packaging. So we had to slow down the stock, wait for the new stuff to come. So we're all out of those right now, but I am so excited it's relaunching July 15th, where
Awesome.
we have this incredible new face section of our website that will highlight the beautiful new palettes and how they're going to be housed, and some other surprises along the way that I've promised my marketing team, because I tell everybody everything. I'm very transparent, and they're like, can you stop telling the community everything? And let's leave some surprises for when we're actually launching stuff. So I've promised this time I will not spill all the beans on what we're doing on July 15th or the rest of the summer, for that matter. So there's a lot of new stuff coming in terms of, we're trying to change out the packaging. So we're going to run out of a ton of stuff right now. So unfortunately, our lip stuff is still there. We got lots of that, but you know, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to have this conversation with you. I'm grateful to have people buying our stuff so that we sell out of stuff. It's just such a beautiful time in history to own a business, to see all of these wonderful movements happening that people are paying attention to. People are wanting to have conversations that used to be really uncomfortable, and it's an awesome time to own a business.
I love that, Jen. That is so exciting. So July 15th, let's look out for that. If you're not following Jen's CHEEKBONE Beauty on Instagram, we will all be doing that for that big announcement. And you know what? I want to thank CHEEKBONE Beauty for, you know, the leadership that you have. I mean, it's such a, like I said, I can't even say it enough. Every time I'm looking online and digging deeper into your brand, it's just I found such beautiful initiatives you're part of, and that's one thing too, is it is really a thank you, because for any business, it's hard enough to run a business, and it's not easy to be sustainable. Like you just mentioned, it's a science in itself, right? It's yeah. So thank you. And you know, the funny thing too is that many people, I mean, it's how do you say, more spotlighted now in terms of the use of chemicals, but in many common products. But it's so scary, right? From what we eat, even groceries, to what we wear, to sort of find out some of the chemicals that are being used. So it is a very destructive practice in many of the corporations, but it is nice to see that sustainability, as well as, you know, being more socially responsible, has finally taken the forefront, and corporations are paying attention to it. So kudos to CHEEKBONE Beauty in everything that you do to support that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So you know, another thing I want to bring up, because I'm also a female startup, and you know, being female, representing the Indigenous community, Indigenous female leadership, you know, we all know business is tough. How was the journey for you as a female founder, as an Indigenous female founder?
Yeah, I think sometimes I'm really naive when it comes to lots of things, including like racism. I kind of live in this Pollyanna bubble sometimes, which is good and bad because I try not to pay attention to all of the negative just for the sake of my own spirit, right? Like
Right.
I want to stay happy and I want to have joy in my life. So if I really paid attention too much to all of the things that are happening, including, you know, inequalities that happen for women that have been happening for a really, really long time, I might have gotten down on myself or gave up. So I choose really not to focus too much on that side of things and just look, you know, you must know this as well, because it's like you start out, you're a startup in an industry or and as an entrepreneur, you find the networking events, you show up, and it's so hard just to show up even sometimes, right?
Right.
But I think you get there, and then it could be you talk to maybe 20 people at that event, and then it turns out the one person knows somebody that knows something that could help you or your business get to the next stage or the next step. So I've really just focused on those great things that have happened throughout it. You know, if I was to focus on how painfully true it is that this is really hard for women, this is really hard for Indigenous people, then I certainly might have gotten so down that I would not want to continue. So I have to choose to find the light, find the good, or else I would have given up a long time ago. So as hard as it is, I know, I'm sure it could have been easier for many things, but maybe I'm a sicko in this way that I'm like, the harder it is, I'm like, the more I just keep fighting. So I
That's
don't know.
so
It's
funny
my
that you say
twisted
that.
sense.
That, you know what? That's funny that you say that. And I think it's part of the entrepreneur DNA. It's like, if it wasn't a challenge, we wouldn't even be doing it, right? It's a sick, and I say this too, it's a sick passion where it's like, it's so hard, but you love it. It's like, it's chaotic, but you love it. So
Yeah.
I completely agree. Again, leaders like yourself is a visible testament, a visible inspiration to the younger females, the younger generations, Indigenous persons, young youth who are looking to, right, build a business one day, because when you can see it, you can really believe it, right?
100%. And that is literally, you know, I again, I'm like, okay, I enter this industry, this beauty industry, never been in this before. Just know as a consumer, I loved the space. I love the products. I love trying things. I love feeling powders and trying on lipsticks and hand creams, all of it. I just adored it my whole life, but having no clue really what it was all about until I got here. And, you know, just to show Indigenous youth that you can, like, if you really want to try something or enter an arena that you may have never thought you could get involved in, that it is totally possible. So I do feel like I have a big responsibility resting on my shoulders to keep fighting every day, regardless of how hard it is, for the sake of them. Not, it's so funny that I'm like, you know what, don't buy my makeup, don't if you don't wear makeup, that's fine, but I just want people, again, to have those deeper conversations and think about things a little bit differently, and just really be here as an example to show our Indigenous youth that, yeah, just dive in and keep trying, and you know, you're going to make mistakes, but it's all part of the journey, and that it's possible for them.
Yeah, that's a big statement, right? It is possible. And I saw a T-shirt in one of the pictures I saw, and you're wearing relentless and resilient. And I
Yeah.
think I love
Yeah.
it. You know, we got to be strong, and we got to continue pushing forward for what's good. And if it's not good, we got to make good, right? So
Exactly.
that's awesome. And you know, to that note, you do a lot of work for the community. So tell us more about your involvement with CHEEKBONE Beauty and the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing organization. I always, so if I'm find people that they're like, oh, I love what you're doing, but I don't wear makeup. I'm like, you can go directly to their site and make your donation through them. You don't even have to buy anything from us. But from the beginning, when I had the dream or this idea to build this business, it was about creating this scholarship fund. And it was really in honor of my grandmother's name, who was a residential school survivor. So after, you know, business advisory board meetings, they suggested, they're like, okay, do you know, like, you're trying to start this cosmetics business, but at the same time, you're trying to start this fund or foundation in your grandmother's name. They're like, those are two separate businesses. You might want to just focus on building the one business before you could focus on the other. So that's always kind of been slid to, I guess, the back burner of a stove, if we look at it that way. But I knew that that was the goal, still the supporting of Indigenous youth, their education. And then we thought about it, and we found the First Nation Child and Family Caring Society, and we could support them with donations, and it just worked perfect. And then I got worried, because you're like, I don't know this organization personally right away, like they look great. And then you're like, so you do all the more and more research, but finally getting to meet Cindy Blackstock, who's the executive director, personally, hearing her speak, and just being totally in awe of this woman who is just such an authentic, ethical, Indigenous woman who's dedicated decades of her life to fighting for the rights of First Nations kids. So it was easy now. It's really simple to want to give our donations to that organization. And then that was just the beginning for us when it came to, we have tried to build into everything that we do at CHEEKBONE Beauty this idea of streams of giving versus streams of revenue. We're a social enterprise, so much of the work that we do is about giving back, but we are a business at the same time. And part of that dream I had was, why can't you have a business that is like literally about supporting other people, but not necessarily like a traditional business that is all just for profit. You know, we have not-for-profits, we have businesses for profit, and now we have this beautiful space in between called social enterprise. And in Canada at the time when I had started, there wasn't a lot of I guess examples of that, but around the world there was. So I started looking to businesses and really admired things that were happening, like with Tom's Shoes, or the Giving Keys in California. And this idea of making a business that is really a lot about giving back, but you're also still a business that's profitable, but not profitable to the extremes of what, you know, that I think the big business world has done, where it's all about just like cutting bare costs and minimums, and not worrying about the environment, not worrying about the human factor.
And
So
we're feeling
really,
the effects of that right now, right?
we're living that.
Yeah.
That has damaged literally our entire, like, our world, essentially. That concept of, it's just greed, right? And so, you know, I'm like, it was like a gamble, essentially. I'm like, let's try it and see what happens. And I am, again, that's where that gratitude comes in, that people, they saw what we saw. They see the potential, I think, of this idea of doing business for good, and it's growing, and it's becoming popular in all industries, not just our beauty space, but so many more, which is it's amazing, and it's giving independent entrepreneurs an opportunity that maybe wasn't there before.
I think that's amazing. And it's so funny. The more I'm talking to you, we have so much in common. So that's the other thing. When I launched my startup, I already had my charity set like in my mind of how I wanted to set that up before I even had my business off the ground, basically, or the concept even. So, but like you said, it's one of those things that, you know, it could sometimes, again, almost be like handling two businesses, right? So, but I was always questioning myself that too. I said, you know, why can't you have one foot for the passion and the greater good and one foot in business? They can go together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you're doing. I love what your brand does. I mean, seriously, Jen, I mean, it's amazing. I think it's beautiful. And again, you know, just going back to your product too, you know, it's paraben free, it's chemical free, it's vegan. And, you know, I saw your goals on your site to go, you know, zero waste by 2023. So you have some, you know, real ambitious milestones that you're looking to meet, all for the good and all for the great environmental impact. So congrats on that. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. So it's really interesting that you say that, because the more I've been in this industry, the more I'm learning that we as consumers have been really misinformed. So as a brand, we're working really, really hard to be like what we're saying in around our tables is radically transparent when it comes to raw ingredients, where they're sourced, where they come from, and working with scientists that actually understand formulations and things like dosage and how much of something is good for our skin versus not. You know, we have we felt like our eyes have been really opened, and we're seeing so much fear mongering that happens within the beauty industry because it's really easy for any brand to put know this in something, and that's an easy way to make a consumer afraid, like literally. So, and then there's even the problem goes to the next level where smaller brands are making claims that are really blatant untruths, right? Because maybe one, I don't think people are purposefully lying to our customers, but I don't think as a brand founder, unless you're a scientist, that you even not a doctor does not understand the chemistry or formulation side of a business, just like a dermatologist is not going to understand this practice of another doctor. So there's experts in every area, and it's really getting that true understanding that things like clinical data and testing and retesting and experimentation, like if we even just go back when I started working with Jen, who is the formulator behind our new sustainable products, thinking about, remember the science experiments we did in school and how I really didn't love the subject of science or math, but anyway, but I do remember like the simple testing and retesting of things and how you have to change a variable in order to get a different result. And so there is no perfect answer, and we get a lot of anecdotal information, which means that's circumstantial. So how something's going to react on you versus me, and we hear that these claims made even in the diet world as well. Like, I lost 5,000 pounds because I tried this, and we assume that way is going to work for everyone. Well, if you look at beauty and ingredients, those things all come into play as well. But we are upset and a little perturbed now that we know that how the marketing teams and departments of a lot of big brands make claims that really were designed to make us afraid and question. So we're in this movement of green beauty. I firmly encourage everyone to make sure you do your research, ask more questions of those brands if they're making those sorts of claims, and they should be able to answer that you from a scientific perspective. And if they cannot, then you should be very wary.
No, I think you bring up a really good point. And again, thank you for having a transparent brand. I think that's really important as a customer. I mean, even myself, I'm just educating and I feel like customers, unfortunately, we do have to take a proactive step to being educated, because if we don't, right, that leads us to the misinformation. So it's nice to see brands being transparent. So that's really important. Another really, really cool thing that I thought I wanted to bring up was your brand and yourself was on Dragon's Den. Like, how cool is that? I mean, as every, aspiring entrepreneur dreams of being on that platform, that stage, was it really stressful? I mean, I want to know, how crazy was it?
Yes, it was. It was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done, because I am not one of, I don't consider myself to be like an extreme extrovert where that kind of conversation would be really easy to have, even at like those networking discussions we had earlier. That's hard to go up to strangers, introduce yourself, and talk about your business. It's hard because you don't know them and you don't know the kind of reaction the person's going to have. So, but I really highly recommend it for anyone who wants to stretch or work that courage muscle, because it definitely gave me as an entrepreneur, as the founder of the business, and it gave me the confidence now to be able to pitch my business pretty much to anybody or any investor or potential investor or partner in any business relationship. They are super gracious, and they had a ton of expertise. So I really wanted to listen to their feedback and get their advice on direction of the brand. And, lots of people have made claims and said, oh, you should have had a deal. they said you were too early. A lot of people said, we don't think that's true. But as the founder, I'm looking back now, and like Arlene and Michelle, they were right. I was too early for an equity deal. So the more you learn about investment and money for growing your business or any source of capital for business, you realize there's certain points in time, like timing is everything. So it would have been way too early for CHEEKBONE Beauty to take an equity deal. And there's lots of reasons for that. And they were, and I'm glad that that we got that space to learn and grow from. But it was a great experience, really, really scary. But I highly encourage it for every entrepreneur, just to, when they have those auditions. Sadly, this year due to COVID, they did not. But when it comes back, I certainly want everyone to go try and give it a shot.
So does it go by really fast when you actually do take the stage?
The taping, so that you usually get about an hour with them. I think it's depending on the kinds of questions they're asking you. But the segment is literally 7 minutes long. So we had a full hour in there together. What you saw on the Dragon's Den episode when it aired was only 7 minutes that the production team puts together, because we do have to remember this is a show, is for entertainment. Because my kids were making fun of me. They're like, Mom, you were on TV for 7 minutes and you were crying for 6 of them, right? And I was like, I really wasn't the whole time. But that's what, the producers, they want this to be entertaining for Canadians as well. And you know what? I'm an emotional person. I am not ashamed that I cry. I cry a lot. And those are tears that I've release when I feel like it, and hopefully it helps me connect better with other human beings. And for the most part, I realized it has. When we tear off those exterior layers of the world's hardened us in so many cases. But the more that I share with people, that you get to know better, and that's even in business, you can build some really beautiful relationships with people and gain deeper understanding of one another as human beings when you share a little bit more.
Yeah, no, that's a really nice trait. I'm also very compassionate and, empathetic. And so, the beauty of that, of having those traits is it helps so much when you create your brand. So much goes into it, right? And it shows in the product and your ethos too. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. I think that's a beautiful trait and personality to have. And when it came to the preparation to making the big pitch, did you get any help or did you do it yourself? How did you prepare for that?
So you prepare your own, and then there's a producer that's assigned to you throughout the process that they really help you, I guess, narrow it down. And it was a great practice, because so many times, and here's the interesting thing, that was the third time I tried out for Dragon's Den. So the first time I got rejected, the second time I got rejected, the third time I got the go ahead to go into the den and do the taping of the show. But I realized, looking back, that year 1 and 2, I was not ready. I couldn't even articulate who we were as a business and what we were really trying to accomplish in that 30-second, 2-minute pitch. So that practice really, and then when you get there, it really helped me harness the really important things that we wanted to discuss and pitch to what would be potential investors.
So that's amazing. That just, again, goes to the effect of never quit, right? So
Yeah.
it didn't happen the first take, not the second, but third time you nailed it, right? So good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So in closing, one of the things I always like to ask my guests is, we all have, you're inspiring me. I'm telling you, you've probably inspired countless of people out there in our country and all over the world. But in terms of your inspiration, who is your number one inspiration or other inspirations?
So I have lots, but I've been talking about this a lot more lately, is the fact that losing my brother to suicide before building CHEEKBONE Beauty, as painful, it's this constant companion of pain, but it's pain in a sense that it's fueling me to keep going, in that thing that you said about never giving up. So I'm inspired by the life that he lived, and I would know that, you know, and when I get to see him again, I want to be able to have this conversation that this is what I did and you inspired me to keep going and do all of this work. So that he is total inspiration for me. But then there's like big, like I'm like such a massive Oprah Winfrey fan that it's really, really like, it's almost dorky how much of a big Oprah Winfrey fan I am. But I'm so inspired by her life's work, all the things that she does with her success, and that I just think she's done so much great work, and I've always admired her, and I love the way she forces, and did when she had her show, forces people to think. And that's, you know, I learned from that, and I want to share that with other people as well, that if we just pause and think about something for a second, right? Because we're so easily, as human beings, we jump to an idea of our opinion of the way something should be. But the interesting thing about life is we have not lived another person's path. We have no idea about their lived experience and how that environment plays a massive role into the person that they become. And unfortunately, there's great stories of that environment making people incredible human beings. Or turning them into, maybe, you know, for a time, not such a good citizen of the country that they live in, or the area that they are. But I love the idea of that. Maybe if we stopped seeing the worst in anyone, if we just stopped and maybe started focusing on what could they be if that didn't happen, or this. So just trying to remove those preconceived notions and ideas we all have about each other, right? Like that blocks us from a lot of good things happening in terms of relationships with one another. So I always love the work that she did, and she really talked a lot about things like intention. And, you know, it's funny how, like, she probably has millions of people that she's affected with just her leadership style and mentorship ideas. So I try to think about intention a lot of times when I'm doing work and doing projects, of like, what do we really want to happen after this? Like, what's the real intention, and thinking about that on much deeper levels, and just hoping that our community does as well.
Oh, that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, Oprah Winfrey, if you look at her story and, you know, how, the tragedies, you know, her growing up and all, and where she was able to fight to get to, I mean, she's an inspiration as well. And my heart goes out to your brother as well. And I think that's a beautiful, like, dedication and inspiration in the name of your brother. So that's really sweet. So in terms of, you know, we're heading to the end of our interview. And again, I'm just, what a beautiful, amazing brand that you have, Jen. It's CHEEKBONE Beauty Canada. If you haven't checked it out, I highly suggest, you know, you follow her page. Again, there's a big announcement coming on July 15th, so I'll definitely be looking out for that. And I guess just giving you the floor to say a last few words to your super fans out there. That's what I like to call the community of our viewers. So,
yeah, you know, just try to think differently and think deeper every single day, and hopefully all of our lives will be impacted for the better by using just simple things like kindness and compassion.
thank you so much, Jen Harper from CHEEKBONE Beauty. We had a great time learning more about your brand. So there you go, Canada. Check it out and support Canada. Thank you.